YouTube comments from a video titled, Where You Actually Want to Be When WW3 Starts. Part 4.
Dangiato wrote,
Lol, the pronunciation of Keflavik in this video is cute. I was stationed there for almost 312 years, and the locals that worked on the base didn't pronounce it that way, and neither did Americans.
At Rocky 8P wrote,
With that many nukes going off, it would the world into a snowball effect. The deepest of oceans would freeze solid. Luck all because nowhere would be safe.
As Shaneling S7T wrote,
Radioactive fallout would impact all areas of the world and would poison the oceans. No fish, no animals, no plant life. Just a slower death for those in some safer areas.
as SimSpark 1 wrote,
You forget all 5,500 dumbs. At Fiji, there are 2 major. I think it was nuked already. Just count all volcano outbursts, floods, and storms. Those areas were the dumb zones. Most rich Russians live in EU. France, Spain, Swiss, USA. So I don't count on them bombing their own backyards. PayPal think that there are countries, but it's the rich. Their inventions should be followed. Unless they are posted out of us and you, they will never ruin their own pleasantry estates. I don't believe in wars anyway.
as Sox41 wrote,
One halfway through, but so far, you ignore the impact of winds that will carry radioactive air here and there. Besides Africa, I thought certain parts of South America, which have few ties to the major powers, might be a good place to hide.
At Reason, Living 77 wrote,
You only talking crap, no place on earth will be safe. It's only if you are able to endure. And it's not a maid, but the Elmite twy at the control, not men. His will be done tuddish.
At Georgia Guerrero 6539 wrote,
Stop talking about WWO. There will never be one. Wars from now on will be in trading wars, as we progress to a more divided world. But if we are smart as humans, we will not let this happen. There is abundance for everyone if we stop the egos and share knowledge, not competing.
At SV160 wrote,
I hoped people who screaming for war would really know what war is and what it does. Good video to remind you. We are nowhere safe if a war. There is no safe place because war is unpredictable. Best not to have one. We used to joke around when we were kids, saying, what if there is war and no one shows up for it?
Promaster HOF wrote,
WW3 would be nuclear, and there will be no safe place. China and Russia both know that invading the USA would be costly in the lives of their troops, so they most likely wouldn't try it. The nuclear option is the way they would go.
At Kate 3165 wrote,
Why put the U.S. with NATO when it now wants out? And why put Canada with the U.S. as if the U.S. wasn't now T3 invasion on Canada? We are not allies anymore. Greenland's biggest threat is also the U.S., same for Mexico. U.S. allies are now pretty much just Israel.
At Firefox E3 you wrote,
And you think South Africa would be a good place? I highly doubt that. Look at it from another angle. During WW3, Egypt would be most likely to close the Suez Canal, ships would be forced to use the Cape route, and there's the problem. BRICS. Do you really think Russia and China will not use the ports in South Africa for supplies?
At Armanto Alex 13 wrote,
If this will be a nuclear war, which we know it would, almost nobody would be left to tell the story, and the handful that might survive would be left disfigured and sick with the nuclear fallout. So who the hell would want to still be standing, trying to pick up the pieces in an apocalyptic world? I sure as hell wouldn't.
At Jittery Goat 49 wrote,
Is there any safe place on the planet with a global thermonuclear conflict? Even if a country is not on the hard target list, there is still the matter of radioactive fallout and nuclear winter. Who is actually safe from that?
David Fosca 1044 wrote,
Just get saved. How? Believe the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. The gospel is to believe the Lord Jesus Christ died on the cross, was buried, and rose again on the third day. Religion never saved a soul, only the Lord Jesus Christ saves. Say a prayer of thanks for the Lord Jesus Christ saves, and have a good meal. Read 1 Corinthians chapter 15, 1-4 in the King James Bible Online. Hypersonic ICBM of Russia have 15 nuclear warheads per ICBM programmed to target cities, military bases, ports, etc. Each one is 100 times more powerful than Hiroshima. The book of the Revelation has 21 judgments during the Great Tribulation, and the Lord Jesus Christ in Matthew chapter 24. The Olivet Discourse says it will be like never before or ever will be again. Those will be shortened or no flesh will survive. It will be the most horrific era of human history, unspeakable horror. This why it's worth it to get saved. I believe in a pre-tribulation rapture of all the believers to take us out of this world before all hell breaks loose on earth.
At Melody Harpole 8272 wrote,
Just avoid islands, coastlines, major cities, areas without access to wild fresh water. Anything near military bases, /government offices, /manufacturing for waste facilities. The idea of a nuclear winter is hogwash. We bombed ourselves thousands of times. If there's a blast in your area, stay inside for a couple days. You need to live somewhere where you can have access within walking distance of fresh water and grow your own food. There's not one spot on the planet. There's many.
At Andries Seckler 5313 wrote,
You have no idea about Chile. There was just an coup d'etat. 1973, Pinochet, ended 1988. IFYOUDONOT know this. I doubt ALK teach ERES. Awfully BAD info.
At Harry Jensen KR4QZ wrote,
I worked underground for nearly 20 years. The food and supplies stored there guarantee survival for those already underground. Yep, there's hundreds of thousands working underground every day around the globe in developed countries. Those will be the replacements.
The Sigma_Central_ wrote,
Central Australian desert wasteland is the best place to dwell. Eat kangaroos, camels, and grow whatever you can. It's safe from the bombs due to huge desert size and being sparsely populated.
At Munsharn wrote,
Fiji is essentially overrun by China now and of strategic importance. Tuvalu has pledged allegiance to Australia and backs Taiwan. It's not neutral in this. NZ is also of strategic significance to China and has been in the middle of a tug of war between the falling power and the rising power for the past decade. NZ will be active in WW3 alongside Australia. Iceland is safe. Greenland is currently under threat of invasion from the US president. When WW3 breaks out, you'll have to fight, not try to hide anyway.
At Floyd the Pink wrote,
3 to 4 years of global nuclear winter, we will have a 90+% land animal extinction event. Our food and what our food eats will be gone. You eat fish, you eat radioactive fallout.
At CLS 5786 wrote,
This Keith world deserves to end. It's a giant cesspool. Nothing but greed, violence, crime, the hurting of little children, hospitals covering up their errors and sticking together like the ugly cults they are. The complete smut that happens behind church and school doors, people becoming foster parents just to use and abuse the children in it for nothing but the money. FK this world. Let it end in one big-ass explosion.
As Screaming Trees wrote,
I like how Russia is both incompetent and at the same time a threat. On the one hand, they are referred to as a gas station with nukes. Nigeria with snow, and in the same breath they are a threat because they have advanced sophisticated missiles. And planes and space capability etc. Also annoying are the little jibes you take at Venezuela. How is Maduro a corrupt dictator? The guy was elected with a clear mandate. I would argue the kind of corruption that is suffocating the Western countries. I live in Texas is a far more serious threat to everywhere in the world pretty much than somewhere like Venezuela. If you're genuinely concerned with helping people find a place to live, I'd stop virtue signaling and just focus on raw data. It just discredits your channel when you spout what are West's most salient propaganda talking points. And Chile has had a checkered past? GTFO, man. The stupidity is palpable. But it's not just the stupidity, the insensitivity as well. The US fomented several coups there. This is an established fact. It has a checkered history because of us. We installed corrupt fascist governments there that ruled over the country for decades. If it has a checkered past, it is because of us.
At James Vangren 53:16 wrote,
Nothing like nuclear winter for 700 years. Just look at Chernobyl, still hot vacant. And that was just a meltdown nukes of today. Just say bye-bye to your mommy.
At B0SS330 wrote,
One thing to keep in mind. Everyone dies eventually, but the soul's is eternal. Seek Christ now. Salvation is easy once you learn humility and obedience. Ephesians 2:8 for by grace are ye saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God. 9 not of works, lest any man should boast. 10 For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which God hath before ordained that we should walk in them.
At Valen Preskoski wrote,
Many years ago, I classified war plans. If we go nuke, I don't think it's gonna be limited. And if only about half of all nukes are used, forget it. No place on Earth will be safe. Read Naval shoots on the beach.
And Mr. Beeve 1018 wrote,
WW3 would be the worst for everyone. No one will win, not even Putin, so I don't see why Putin would use nukes. As soon as he shoots them off, he has 30 minutes to live before the states send theirs over. It's a no-win situation. His war against Ukraine to gain land and make Russia what it was before the different countries separated from the motherland. I don't know, it seems hopeless to many chiefs in one pot. And then you have Puppet Trump.
Ethera Chronicles 1249 wrote,
So anywhere where white people are. Because the whole continent of Africa is the safest. Nuclear fallout rarely affected crime just crossed the border from SA to Botswana or Zim. Natural resources, come on. Ape Town has one of the most dangerous neighborhoods.
At Morristown 337 wrote,
Why are you dead set on an island? Nobody deep in rural Appalachia? What about the breadbasket farmland in Midwest U.S. rural areas? South America? Remote places in Africa?
And Abgush wrote,
South Africa wouldn't be safe. Looting gangs will be on a level unbelievable. Gangs will replace the police. It would be a literal nightmare. There will be no, I'll swap you my tin of beans for your chocolate bar.
At Lavdish Guzage 4882 wrote,
Solution.
Just get rid of a couple of people who want to start the WW3. You will save 7 billion people, and we don't have to move nowhere.
At Submayasai 8490 wrote,
It's ESCOM chief. There have not been any power outages in a while, so they have finally addressed the power issue. Crime is not great, but if you know how to take care of yourself and observe your surroundings, you will be fine.
At unsighted_Shadowbrine wrote,
34. 31. Another geographical advantage on Chile is the West Coast Pacific contact. Most of its seas are full of whirlpools, and south from South America there's the most dangerous part of the entire ocean area. As a Brazilian, I'd say Brazil is more or less safe. I think criminality will be the least of our worries when it comes to war scenery. Our lands are vast and can be pretty much self-sufficient. Also, by our constitution, we are forbidden from declaring war at any other country unless we get attacked first. So unless we have a Trump-like president that will go over the constitution, we will mostly stay neutral. So survival is possible, and if, and only if, we get a war scenery coming here. The military force from Brazil, albeit not nuclear geared, is renowned, and sometimes countries like the United States that is so proud of their military come here to learn from us. Also, to access Brazil through sea, like 99.9% impossible with our Marines, through air it's not something I think anyone could actually avoid anywhere in the world. But through land, the jungles and other biomes that surround our borders can be and are really dangerous just by its own fauna and flora. By observing the last months of this year, Brazil was pretty chill most of the time. The only movement was on trading agreements through BRICS. Trump was the one to suddenly go like, hey Brazil, 50% on tariffs if you don't release Bolsonaro and drop charges. And then Brazil basically gave the middle finger, and here we are. A bit more noticeable, but still a very chill country when it comes to global politics.
At Charles Reddy 79 wrote,
China is already in the South Pacific. They have been testing ballistic missiles in the South Pacific. September 25, 2024, they were testing without the knowledge of Pacific nations. Only Australia and New Zealand knew about the testing. They are buying out land in South Pacific countries and settling in. So no, South Pacific will not be safe from China in WW3.
At Catherine Salim 9393 wrote,
I am a British and South African citizen in South Africa. Cape Town is perceived to be safe. It is not as safe as it looks. There are many violent crimes there and everywhere in South Africa where there are a lot of people. Being in the centre of South Africa or toward the west coast of South Africa would be best. In addition, there is a nuclear power plant near Cape Town, so if that blows up, it would not be good. In general, we are in crisis mode daily. Before we had electricity problems, and now we have water problems, and crime has skyrocketed. That said, because of this, most South Africans have been preparing for all disasters, so we are more prepared than most people in other countries. As long as you can avoid being murdered and find enough water, you can manage in South Africa.
At George Rasmussen 8343 wrote,
I don't think most people realize how bad a nuclear war would be. Otherwise, we'd all drop what we are doing and demand such weapons just not exist. It's the fallout that will get you, especially in the global north. We are a stupid species, just smart enough to engineer our own demise through poisoning the entire Earth. Unfortunately for the rest of the planet, some of us will likely survive WW3 and evolve a tolerance for radiation. But blaming Putin for the unrest is ultra stupid. One man cannot control millions of people. There is no such thing as a dictator. Every such ruler has a powerful shadow government he answers to. and he must have the media on his side to inculcate the masses. Let's just not have WW3, at least not the radioactive type. Of course, it's inevitable that the current world order break down. Look into which religious groups are determined to cause Gog and Magog to fight each other to the death. Then a lot of things will fall into place.
At Daniel Roberts 5166 wrote,
Get yourself a big-ass sailboat and get out there and play it by ear. Non-electronic radio to listen to what's going on. Not hard to do really. 40 and up good.
At Greg Clark 8256 wrote,
Argentina would be the best. Falklands even better. Telling people to flee to South Africa is insane. Nobody wants to live there now. It's extremely safe for everyone and deadly for anyone not black. Iceland is the safest country in the world. SA, the most dangerous.
At Insane Hunter 01 wrote,
I would give up tech and go live with the Inuit. They did it for thousands of years and are still doing it. I can learn to live WO tech too.
Axoan 2882 wrote,
Who's Russia a threat to? Russia doesn't want world war at the very worst. Putin has some crazy idea of taking back the old Soviet states. Switzerland is where all the wars are organized. That's why they're neutral. You can't control the game if you are in the game. It's all about control, keeping people scared, divide and conquer. They control it all, including your money. Don't buy into their fear-mongering BS, Dave ends.
At Mochtelv 1185 wrote,
This analysis isn't taking into account that the US is a wild card when it comes to its allegiance. As it stands now, the US's allegiance seems to lean more toward Russia than toward NATOYN.
At SBBBQ8C wrote,
South Africa may have squirreled away a nuke or two when they disarmed, so it might not be a good place to be. Inspectors say they destroyed them all, but who knows?
At Aurent 2992 wrote,
According to the Bible, all islands will be washed away, particularly the small ones. Large landmass like a continent is better. No airplanes will be allowed to fly.
At Joel Boudier 1736 wrote,
In a nuclear war, the survivors envy the dead. Einstein said, I don't know how WWE will be fought, but WW5 will be fought with sticks and stones. Most of the Northern Hemisphere and Asia is a no-go zone.
And Stiggins wrote,
All these small island destinations would be a bad idea since WWLL could involve some tsunami bombs. South Africa is a bad idea if you're white due to the black-on-white crime there. That will only increase if the world goes into mass upheaval stage.
At Misakarika 2728 wrote,
Borders will shut real quick. You can be sure of that. And any country that drops anything nuclear on another country, then don't try to come to New Zealand, because you will only receive an hopoate welcome.
At Gamalgris 2497 wrote,
Nobody should to go to the Balkans. Don't try even in WW3. Chances are you might ally all bickering ethnicities against you. The Balkan people can be really stubborn and defiant.
At Jason Dalton, Earls 9972 wrote,
The book Nuclear War by Annie Jacobson, which is the most up-to-date book on nuclear war scenario, explains how nuclear war progresses. It happens by self-automation, once certain pre-programmed events lists have been boxed in, if command centers are rendered unfunctional by a major conflict, or WW3 starts after a preemptive strike. She explains the lucky ones will be those killed. Assuming the Earth as a whole isn't destroyed, which is very possible, This is because of the radiation, burning of the atmosphere, etc. I would have subscribed if you hadn't called Putin a dictator. He is voted in and has 80% of the Russian approval by independent polls. Zelensky is a dictator with barred elections. Saying Russia wouldn't be able to break the US line shows extreme naivety and bias. The usual US Russophobic language is used throughout your narrative. In fact, your whole vocabulary is posturing, ignorant, and parroting of the neocon ideological charade.
Emathipede wrote,
3159 you mean ESKOM also yeah, as a South Africa citizen, I believe that we wouldn't be in war with other countries, more so with ourselves. LMFOW the crime rate is pretty bad, but I also do have to mention that there are a lot of slums scattered across so already, the true rate is dragged down. Statistically speaking, don't come here. Practically speaking, we avoiding war with this one hopefully.
At Brandon Campbell 6027 wrote,
The caption of this is assuming that WW3 is starting. The world is in a state of economic power shifting that's causing a show of force and power. Let's hope nobody pushes the end button or flips the end switch.
At Skull_Lee 987 wrote,
You obviously don't understand South African government. They will involve themselves. If it's possible, they will try to make US their enemy, but would be willing to accept Israel as well. That have a hero complex, so no way they'll try to stay out of it.
At Garfield Escod wrote,
I'm with the ground zero guy. If there is a nuclear war, it could cause a nuclear winter that would affect the entire globe, including the so-called safe havens. You would not have to worry about the ones that caused the war to come after you, because there would be nothing left of them to compose conquering armies. You would just have to worry about smaller bands of surviving marauders and pirates, who will come to take what you have grown and built, because they are too corrupt and lazy to build a life for themselves. Like in past history, it's easier to conquer by violence than to do the hard work of doing the right things.
At Truth Liberty Gospel wrote,
Rupture is the only way out. I'll meet my brethrens in the sky. The show must go on. I want bring more souls Christ before the D-Day.
At Dragon 672 wrote,
Propaganda within 1 minute. 3-day SP-style military operation was never said by Russia. It was propaganda from Jen Milley. 2 minutes, just like every other dictator like Putin. You are a disgraceful shill.
At Haunted Birchild wrote,
They have to really be kidding, right? Do they have any idea of the reality? Just between the US and Russia alone are thousands of huge nuclear warheads they would set off. Nothing on Earth is safe from that nastiness, no matter where they actually land.
At Lady Du1 Tai wrote,
If you're young enough that you're still gonna be around in about 50 years, I feel bad for you because nuclear bombs will be the least of your worries. As for me, I'm 60, so I won't have to be around for it. My kids have wisely decided to not have kids, and so I'm HOPING, and they're not gonna still be alive in about 50 years either.
At Lauren Smith 485 wrote,
All the wars we have had, and as humans we have learned nothing. This is why I will not do any remembrance days of war from now on, because we have learned nothing. All those people that fought wars died for nothing.
At Jan Hansen 554 wrote,
We are in WW3s. To think WW3 will be same as WW2 is not true at all. When all dust have settled, we will have a new world where Asian countries will dominate this world.
At Sempre Siegel 2 wrote,
Nobody is going to run very far.
Bugging out is out of most people's pocketbook potential. Much like evacuating a hurricane, where you think you are going, and who is going to feed your arse when you get there. Build up some storage, make yourself look unappealing, have a way to defend yourself without attracting attention.
At Mavin 8720 wrote,
All this fear-mongering is pretty tame to someone who lived through the Cold War, when the missiles were much more likely to fly, and bombers were always on alert and armed, ready to go the Soviet Union.
At Narayanan V28 wrote,
World War III might never happen with the garden variety armed forces that USA has, which has lost every war it fought after World War II. USA will simply ask for negotiation or let someone else fight the war and they supply arms to them to profit from it.
At Colleen Porsena 2303 wrote,
Wouldn't it be grand if all of the world leaders and oligarchs were just happy for what we have and what we can share? WTF, you can't take it with you. Better you share so everyone has what they need to survive. The basic needs.
At Tigranahanian 3321 wrote,
Putin already got east part of Ukraine annexed. You are a typical Democrat buffoon. If WW3 starts, the radiation will kill everyone. A thermonuclear winter will kill all green plants on Earth and krill and phytoplankton in oceans. Thus, all fish and land animals will die. Maybe only some bacteria will be life deep inside Earth. You can only hide on Mars or Moon.
At Miss Bilby Badinage 1199 wrote,
I can imagine all those nukes shaking the tectonic plates, setting off volcanoes and fault lines, but none of this would matter with a nuke winter. Nowhere would be safe. One of my fav war films is On the Beach, remake in Y2K.
At Mystery Mastery 69 wrote,
After the New Zealand point, I realized this video is totally incorrect. Chinese nationals have been buying up property in New Zealand for years, funded by the Central Bank of China. This is a fun video, but not accurate.
At Debbie Simmons 3081 wrote,
There have been an estimated 2,056 nuclear detonations globally since the first atomic bomb was exploded in 1945. That's almost 26 every year for 80 years, and we're still here.
At Velocity Raptor 7188 wrote,
Radiation and nuclear winter will seep everywhere like microplastics. Better to find a probable point of a dead zone, because at that point humanity is already lost. If any vestiges of Homo sapiens do manage to prolong their lives, let them live in the misery of their dying world. It will likely be the very people who caused the end of the world.
At Bodhi Baba wrote,
I already decided to go to Uganda. That is the safest country, most friendly people I've ever been to, and so easy to survive in. Fruit grows everywhere, and the good thing is it's on nobody's radar. Please stay away from there and leave us alone.
At Iris the 3RD wrote,
TBB, if WW3 actually did break out, I'd probably just want to die faster. I don't want to live in a post-WW3 world or die/see my family die slowly from radiation. Just put us out of our misery now.
Talama 01Q wrote,
I only made it to 33 seconds before I realized this guy is an idiot. As talk with friends from overseas that live in the US or still live overseas. Most, if not all, love America and Trump. Look at all the countries where their citizens wave the American flag just for starters. Just because there's a few socialists, Democrats, Nazis, liberals, communists, fascists that believe otherwise doesn't make it so.
Long live the constitutional republic. The devil is a Democrat. Let freedom ring. God bless America.
At Tony001212 wrote,
It's what I say. Propagandists cannot hold two ideas together for a second. Remember me, why is Europe hysteric saying Russia will go all the way to Madrid, Spain if you keep making fun on them because they cannot conquer Ukraine fast enough, as if the US in its prime didn't take 20 years at Vietnam and still achieve nothing. 20 years at Afghanistan and still achieve nothing, and I can continue. Besides, why would Russia want to invade all Europe? It makes no sense. There are no historic precedents. On the contrary, I would say Europe want to invade Russia, but only can whine as they are too weak to do it.
Jarda_B wrote,
HEY, yo. Just pause for a second. Where the F we ended up as a society that you watch video where to be when WW3 starts, just the fact that we have to think about it.
At Tony001212 wrote,
I doubt the US has the strength to contain China in the island chains, given that carriers and bases will be prime targets to China's hypersonic weapons. So it would be just a matter of time before China can find us carriers and sink them to the bottom of the sea. I know they are aware that US strength is its weakness as well. The heavy dependency in its ability to project power with its navy. If China can sink enough carriers, US will have no choice but to retreat to its shores.
At Mastervex5698 wrote,
How war would go in WW3, hopefully, would be simply surrender after forces are exhausted. If enemies continue pushing in it, is then the nukes would be fired except our surrender or else. Nobody wants the nukes to fly. Even worse, though, is if bioweapons are unleashed. I think our nuclear counter is pretty solid, but we got nothing, and our species is too stupid to prevent a bioweapon. COVID was nothing compared to whatever everyone has cooked up, which would probably kill half the populations in weeks. Something we don't realize we got till it is half across the country. I doubt Canada would be involved much. Relations have certainly soured. Canada might not even be whole by the time. Parts joining the USA or breaking off from Canada. Yeah, Canada rather give up than fight the government corruption. If not for the resources, I would expect the US to be so disgusted that they would turn them down.
At Wen DeSaulniers wrote,
Well, I don't think bombs will be needed. Once the grid is shut off, we will all be screwed. Everything works with power and internet. Sailboat on the ocean somewhere could be practical.
At Fox_0 wrote,
Our elected leaders are so greedy that they will keep funding and instigating conflicts around the world. Even if it means arming, funding, and unconditionally supporting the most corrupt war criminal in the world, Netanyahu.
At Stephanie Andrews 1157 wrote,
There will absolutely be no place to hide if World War III or when World War III occurs. Nukes will go off. Whoever doesn't die in that is gonna die of radiation sooner or later. There will be nothing left.
At Rudneef wrote,
Is this guy really assuming that Brazil is going to stay allied to the US? WTF. The trade war against Brazil and Brazilian trade allies being the possible enemies of the US in a war is one of the biggest reasons Brazil wouldn't be allied to the US. Actually, in a WW3, with Trump in power, it's way more likely that it's everyone against the US.
At Parmate3520 wrote,
But this would put also the aggressors at risk. What would be the point of surviving this for them? Even if they can protect themselves, life would be pointless for them too.
At Andrewsensome4798 wrote,
This whole thing is stupid. Iceland, are you joking? A nuclear war will result in nuclear winter. For multiple years, these places will be a frozen hell.
Etnitzia Martin Vasquez 4420 wrote.
Not to worry at all. The war will end the moment it attempts to start. Once the entire world sees with their own eyes what is about to end it, the world's inhabitants will tremble from fear, and none of any military weapons will work. Only a small remnant will be spared, for a beginning of new forever.
At Emilige Devane 162 wrote.
Stupid positivism. Eating bananas on Fiji and observe nuclear mushrooms. Idiots. Mouse if you can stay alive, but live as cave people, and regard this as happiness.
At Rob9113 wrote.
The video is probably produced by the same narcissistic mindset that feels entitled to have what is in China and what is in Russia, but they just can't have it. How frustrating it must be. I expect they will keep on trying until they are finally stopped. They are entitled to it after all.
At Rob9113 wrote.
How perverted do you have to be to say that your first line of defense is on the doorstep of the target country that you are attacking? This is a lot like NATO marching up to the doorstep of Russia and complaining about Russian belligerents.
At Bonnie Ireland D6R wrote.
There will be no safe place with over 10,000 nukes set off. It would set off earthquakes that would set off tsunamis that wash out smaller countries and islands. Nothing would be left on this planet.
A Jomp 341 wrote.
With the global nuclear radiation that will affect all life forms, including us, it would be interesting to see us become deformed and hostile cannibalistic mutants eating each other up. Lol.
A Squishapine T03 wrote.
Underground bunker. Underground growing. Underground living. 10 years of projected nuclear winter from the fallout emerge to fight and form the new world. It's going to be absolutely horrible. However, the human race will endure. We're too stubborn and despiteful as a species to just fade into the void.
A JK and K6TL wrote.
If we get to that point implied nuclear, every major city in Europe, North America, Russia, China will be wiped out. Europe will be completely unlivable. The others have some remote regions without major cities that might be livable. But in general, the Northern Hemisphere will be a bad place because the nuclear winter and radiation problems will be intense and spreading by weather systems. Nothing will grow in the Northern Hemisphere for at least 10 years predicted, which fast will apply to fish too, because they're part of the food chain. Famine will take out much more people than the strikes themselves. Estimated 90 to 95% of all people will die within 10 years. Don't fall for the illusion of limited exchange. The majority of the 20 PO and T000 plus nukes will be used once it starts. It is a domino effect, and fully automated ruse call it dead hand. USA has the same. The Southern Hemisphere will not get hit with as many nukes, which will mean the effect of nuclear winter will be much less and shorter. So food can be grown, and the food chain will rebound like fish. So the trick is to find a reasonable civilized place able to sustain itself. I mean, modern amenities will be forced back 50 to 100 years, but you will be alive. The other problem is maybe that there will be huge refuge impact that may destroy the ability to sustain small communities in such places. No one cares about Africa, so that might be a choice, maybe places in South America, Australia, because it is so massive and uninhabited, and no one cared to drop a nuke on empty land. And remember, it will USA that trigger the end of our current civilization nuclear war. So if you want to work on preventing it, you should try and influence the mentality of Americans to be more peaceful and embrace a live and let live philosophy, which obviously starts with stability internally, because feeling safe with your immediate neighbors is the basic steps to reduce paranoia and fear of faraway people. And remember, people are friendly everywhere in the world, and you will learn that if you travel, politics, power struggles, religion, money, interests, etc., that is what creates hostilities in the world. But 99% of all people in the world are peaceful and friendly in human-to-human interaction, and that is our shield against triggering nuclear war. Get to know people on a personal level, not through third-party information.
At Bill Doyle 6V wrote,
What a silly barrage of nothingness. Your main premise is that a third world war will start out as a conventional war and maybe end that way. Chances are highly unlikely that it would not start conventionally and then escalate as soon as one side gets behind and begin to panic. The Third World War is most likely going to end with no sign of life on this planet except for cockroaches. So I know it's fun to imagine fantastic futures for good or for bad. But I'd rather leave this subject alone and hope that we don't have to endure the future in that situation at all.
At 72 Mark Miester wrote,
So when nuclear war does start, I just want to be vaporized. I don't want to go through radiation sickness, lack of food, no water, nothing like that. I'd rather be dead. This is why nuclear war is so stupid nobody wins. Everybody's a loser and one part is always thinking if I can't win, then nobody else should win, which is stupid because all of life ends.
At Apricot Peachamster wrote,
Guys, go to a school, close all the windows and blinds, turn off the lights, and sit far away from the windows. If you get hit, don't forget to stop, drop, and roll.
At Norm_MacLeod wrote,
The amount of radioactive particles that get put into the atmosphere would have a lot to do with it. A large enough amount would reach a very large percentage of the planet's population. Those who didn't die by proximity would eventually face a radioactive nuclear winter for months, if not years. Most, if not all of us, would not survive. Have a nice day.
At Stephen Huffnagel wrote,
No one will bomb Fiji. It's a non-combatant. The South Pacific has remote islands in the Southern Ocean. Those are best bets. After this, it's Patagonia. Live on a sailboat and be self-reliant. You can live off of the ocean. It's full of free protein.
At Lapertiev Show wrote,
Dumbest video I've ever watched. How the hell on WW3 with ships and warplanes close to where you are you going to be able to move around like you picture it? SMH.
At Barbaroth 4226 wrote,
With people already trying to escape their situations in their homeland and right-wing anti-immigration trying to rule the world, good luck migrating to a safe spot with the rest of the millions.
P.I. Edwards wrote,
This video assumes some oddly traditional battle tactics. Why wouldn't we be over in 15 minutes, and there goes any hope of getting food, medicines, etc. from anywhere but your own homestead? You should look for some place with arable land and good weather. Mild tropical climates surrounded by water, not cold climates like Iceland. Whatever machines you use to tap into volcanic energy will break, and you won't be able to get replacements. Another point in favor of the tropics is the potential for harvesting natural medications. Bleak northern landscapes wouldn't be very good for that.
At Labelgo wrote,
I appreciate that you actually pronounce the places you're naming correctly. Unfortunately, one cannot just decide to live wherever one pleases. EU members can choose to live in other spots in the EU. But US citizens, for instance, would be limited to US territories, the Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia, and the Republic of Palau. Among those places, I suspect American Samoa would be the safest. If I could, though, I'd love to live in Chile to ride out WW3.
The Chapiat 08 wrote,
Imagine feeling safe in a remote place that you found and then have fallout all over you. Even the remotest places on Earth are at risk of that, particularly the Northern Hemisphere. There isn't much to bomb in South America or Africa, more like invading to get hold of resources, in which case one would have to deal with an invading army, like our ancestors did many times throughout history. And hope they are relatively disciplined and don't go about cutting heads.
Etiquero 1000 or more wrote,
Nothing will happen. Even the bunkers built over decades by the top elites are vulnerable to the new weapons. They will eventually find common ground to keep exploiting the rest of the people, at least for now. And in the future, with the new weapons, there will be not a single safe place left, lol.
At Maximus Royalster 9084 wrote,
I'll be glad to live in Belgium if that happens. Our capital, Brussels, is right in the middle of our country, and so is the European Parliament. If the Russians want to start a nuclear war, Brussels will definitely be a target. Belgium is only 300 kilometers long. I think 2 of the most powerful Russian nuclear bombs would be enough to wipe the whole country off the map. We won't even feel a thing.
At Engerfka wrote,
During wars, the first thing to close is the airspace. No one is going anywhere. Your best bet is on road or running in the woods, and hope the wildlife, elements, or military doesn't get you. That's it.